We'll read Luke chapter 22, verses 1 to 6. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him, that's Jesus, to death, for they feared the people. Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money. So he consented and sought an opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of a crowd. The Feast of Unleavened Bread was included among the festivals that God gave to the Israelites. There were 7 feasts of the Lord, as they were called. Perhaps the most important was the Passover. The Feast of Unleavened Bread immediately followed the Passover, and they were often considered together. The Passover was a day's feast, and unleavened bread lasted a week. These 2 feasts celebrated the time when the Israelites left their slavery in Egypt under God's direction and Moses' leadership in order to go to the land that God had promised them. The Egyptians had found their slave work so valuable that they refused to let the people go. So God brought plagues upon the land, ending with the death of all the firstborn in Egypt. There were warnings, and there was a way of escape from the night of death. Any who killed a lamb and painted its blood on the doorposts and the lintel of the house would escape. The lamb was known as the Passover lamb. God passed over that house when he saw the blood of the lamb. They were to roast the lamb and eat the meat with unleavened bread and herbs. Unleavened bread is bread without yeast. They were to be dressed and ready to go, and so they did. The Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread were annual feasts to celebrate this event, and this time was now approaching. The chief priests and scribes were actively looking for a way to put Jesus to death, but they found this difficult as the people generally liked what he did. Now, among the 12 disciples, there was one who was false, a sham. He liked the people's interest in Jesus, which he felt, I'm sure, reflected well on him as one of the 12 who Jesus had chosen to be with him. He'd also managed to take charge of their finances, and he showed what he was really like by stealing and being dishonest. This was Judas Iscariot. The Lord did know Judas Iscariot when he chose him. And Judas allowed Satan, the devil, to control him. Judas knew very well that the religious leaders wanted Jesus dead, but were frightened to pick him up during the day when all the people were around. And Judas was so much in love with money that he was willing to sell his master for silver. So he went to the Jewish leaders to do a deal. They were very pleased. We know from the other biographies of the Lord Jesus that they gave him 30 silver pieces. These coins together were the amount that a working man would get in 120 days' work, so a lot of silver. And so Judas thought out a way to betray Jesus to them when there wasn't a crowd of people watching. Well, here's something for us to think about. How important is money to us? Do we love money so much that we do wrong things to get it?